Hi, this is Dave, and before we get to the show, I wanted to ask you a favor. One of our goals this year is to grow the show so that What Does Star Wars Mean to You reaches more listeners. And that's where we're asking you for help. And it's really easy. Wherever you listen to us, please hit that subscribe button. If you're liking the show, give us a 5-star rating and review on the platform you listen to us. We make a lot of fun of the algorithm and the smash that button thing, but it really does help us get noticed by new fans. And if you want to join in on the conversation, find us on social at Star Wars Mean to You. That's Star Wars Mean, the number 2 in the letter U. Now, let's chat some Star Wars.
I want to feel something. Like, I want to really feel like the full gamut of emotions. Like, I will probably watch Revenge of the Sith or Rogue One.
Hello there, this is Dave, and I'm an original trilogy kid.
And this is Elora. I'm a prequel trilogy kid. And welcome to What Does Star Wars Mean to You, the show where we talk to all kinds of fans of Star Wars to take the hate out of the debate and look at the franchise from a certain point of view, one fan at a time.
Now, our guest today is a journalist and historian who has been a reporter since college. She has covered everything from theme park openings and rocket launches to presidential campaigns. She's a freelance writer mainly covering entertainment, including 2 books-focused social media pages. Her interest in space led to her working on her first historical nonfiction manuscript, a field guide to space history sites in the South. But it's her love for Star Wars that brings her here today because she created and runs the weekly newsletter Space Wizards Book Club. Please give a warm hello there to Chelsea Zukowski.
Hello there.
Thanks for having me. So happy to be here.
Thanks for joining us. We're very excited to have a fellow space book nerd on the podcast.
Great. I can talk all about Star Wars and space.
Perfect.
So.
Well, I guess you've already answered this question, but Chelsea, are you ready to share with the world what does Star Wars mean to you?
I am absolutely ready.
Perfect.
Awesome.
That is our favorite answer around here. We love to start with 5 with the Force. So this is like our 5 rapid fire questions just to get like your Star Wars saga baseline. Which movie is your go-to favorite?
It's honestly a toss-up between The Phantom Menace or Attack of the Clones. Those were the movies that I saw like in the theaters, like the first Star Wars movies that I saw in the theaters. And I have like vivid memories of like watching Attack of the Clones and like Padme and Anakin's wedding. So they both bring such comfort to me.
The audience did not see my face, but I think I just like short-circuited with that answer. I was so excited that you just said Attack of the Clones because that's secretly my favorite as well.
Definitely a prequel kid as well. I mean, those are just like my go-tos. I love them so much, even though like I know how it all ends. I also love Revenge of the Sith for sure. I would make that clear. I love all of the prequel movies, even though every time I watch, I'm like, he's gonna not turn to the dark side this time. Yeah.
Like, not this time. Like he can't do it again.
He still has a chance. Like, don't do it, Anakin. And then he does. And I'm like, well, it's okay.
Boys will be boys. No.
Yeah.
Aw, wait a minute.
I love the unapologetic, like, these are my favorites, because the prequels get so much hate in the the greater fandom. That's awesome. Who or what is your favorite? And for this, Dave needs to roll a d6 for me, because I don't have
3.
Okay, Bounty Hunter.
Oh my gosh. Asajj Ventress.
Okay.
She's about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
She was a bounty hunter at one point. That's literally the first person that came to mind besides Boba Fett. And I obviously love Asajj Ventress more. She is everything to me. I love her so much.
She's been getting a lot of love on our pod recently.
Yes.
Yeah.
And for good reason. She deserves it. Like she deserves the world and deserves to be happy. Like just doing her own thing, living forever. So
I love that. What is your favorite line to quote?
Oh, it is from The Phantom Menace, and it is by Qui-Gon Jinn, and is your focus determines your reality.
Oh,
good one.
So good.
I actually have listeners can't see this, but I have like this little mouse pad type thing that I got from Disney World that says like in pretty scroll, your focus determines your reality.
I was literally just thinking that needs to be like cross-stitched and like framed and like in the opening entry hall of like my house or something. That's
with
such
flowers.
a good,
And like a lightsaber.
Like the flowers coming out of the lightsaber, maybe.
Yes, that's my tattoo.
Besides the movies, what is your favorite Star Wars content? And this can be anything from like TV shows to comic books to games. Obviously, novels are fair game as well.
It's the books. It's the books. Yeah, that's pretty obvious, but yes, it is the books. I have
a favorite book, or is that like
I cannot. It's like picking a favorite child. Exactly. I could name top 5. I could probably do that, but like it switches in the number 1 spot, like depending on what I'm thinking about or working on. But my immediate answers are usually Dark Disciple, Lost Stars, and Inquisitor: Rise of the Red Blade.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Interesting. No, I mean that I understand. That would be like Dave asking me to like rate my favorite Taylor Swift songs. That just wouldn't.
I would find difficulty with that too. It really depends on your mood.
It does.
So
and the books are a reflection of that. Yeah.
And it's also kind of like movies where you're like, well, I just feel like something warm and cozy, so I'm going to watch Attack of the Clones, or I want something really thrilling, so I'm going to watch Revenge of the Sith. So it's just kind of like part of that all these favorites are kind of partial to mood.
Oh, 100%.
If I want to feel something, like I want to really feel like the full gamut of emotions, like I will probably watch Revenge of the Sith or Rogue One.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Rogue One gives me chills every single time, and it's a banger. Like
it is.
So good.
No, it's one of their better films they made. Yes. Okay, last of the 5 with the Force. What Star Wars literary character would you say you most relate to?
Oh wow. Honestly, first person that jumped into my mind was Elzar Mann from High Republic.
The High Republic, yep.
He's probably not as well known outside of people who read the High Republic, but this man, he is definitely like our emo boy, emo baby girl. Yes. He gets put through it, and he is still going through it, and he tries so hard, and he really wants to be a good Jedi, and like he keeps, like anybody, he makes mistakes, and he's so hard on himself.
Sounds like just like the resilience.
Yeah, like he really just he wants to be good. Yeah. He wants to be good and help people and like be happy, and he almost feels like he has to like punish himself.
Oh.
But like I love him so much, and I'm like, I don't know what that says about me. Like I can relate.
A go-getter.
I can relate to the feeling of like not being good enough. Like I can relate to that.
Okay, I think everyone sitting here right now could.
Yes. So also, he's always trying, and he, like you said, he wants to do better.
Yes, he's really dedicated. And second to that too is Reith Silas from the High Republic. I relate to him too on the level of him being like obsessed with the library and like the Jedi archives and like loving history and like not wanting to go out on adventures and just wanting to like stay at home and like read. So like I definitely like relate to him there.
He's the introvert Jedi, which I think I would be too.
Yes.
So that's your 5 with the Force, and we'll touch upon all this as we talk. But can you take us through your first Star Wars experience? Like what introduced you to Star Wars? And
well, my dad introduced me to Star Wars. I think a lot of people's dads. That was their kind of introduction to Star Wars. My dad, like so many other dads, watched Star Wars in 1977 when it came out, and he loved it. I don't think that he realized then. He definitely doesn't realize now that to quote Jedi masters, the apprentice has like surpassed the master. I am like tenfold the fan, like my dad is. Like my dad loves Star Wars, but even now he's like you read a lot of Star Wars books. If he has questions, like if he's watching a new show or one of the new movies, he's like, wait, what about like I thought this happened. I was like, actually, no, Dad, wait, let me pull up my handy reference book here and just going through stuff and explaining stuff to him. So yeah, that was my dad introduced me to Star Wars. And I don't remember exactly when I watched the original trilogy, but I do remember seeing The Phantom Menace and especially the Attack of the Clones in theaters. That is like the most vivid memory I have as a young kid watching a Star Wars movie in theaters. And then over the years, I was more of a casual Star Wars fan. I liked it. I wasn't actively obsessing over it like I do now. And the where I am now really has roots in the hype for The Force Awakens coming out in, what was that, 2015? Yes, 2015.
Yeah. Yes.
10 years next year. That's
oh my
crazy.
God.
Can you believe it?
No, time's going way too fast.
Like, that's so crazy. And I look back at like the year, like 2015, like so many like awesome things happened for me in that year. Like I met my now husband, The Force Awakens came out, that really kind of like ignited my love, like deep love for Star Wars. And I was working at my local newspaper at the time. And of course, like the world was excited for a new Star Wars movie. It's like a cultural event, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I was working in the features department, and my coworker at the time, she was a huge Star Wars fan and had read like all of the books, all the Legends books and things like that. So we teamed up and did like a bunch of fun, like feature-y stories ahead of the movie's release that grew into a group of us, being like the Star Wars movie crew. So like every time a new Star Wars movie came out, we would go on opening night all together to see the new Star Wars movie. And so that kind of grew from there. And then 4 years ago, I left working in local news, like daily local news, started freelancing, and I was introduced to the High Republic. And now here I am. I never thought, like I look back at photos from, especially like 10 years ago, like at my shelf of like 4 or 5 Star Wars books, like my little shelf. And then I'm like, I have counted my Star Wars books that I have now. And I'm like, this is insane. Like I have hundreds. It's so crazy. And like thinking about all of the Star Wars books that I've read, even in the last 4 years, it's a lot.
It is a lot. They've put out so many, and I feel like it's like a book a month.
It was at one point. It really
whether
was.
it's young adult or regular, and
sorry,
regular. I want to take one step backwards. After you saw the movies with your dad, the prequels, and you said you kind of weren't a super fan then, but you liked them. Did you have a daily or a regular relationship with Star Wars in the sense of like, oh, I had this action figure that I always kept on my desk, or something like that? Did you interact with Star Wars on a daily basis at all, or was it not until The Force Awakens really kind of, quite frankly, reawakened your fandom?
Wow.
I would say the latter. I think it was after watching the prequels, I do remember having a Padme Amidala doll, like a Barbie doll.
Oh.
And I remember wanting like the toys and like the plushes. I was a kid, and so I wanted all of those things. So I think I also had like some sort of like Jar Jar Binks like doll or toy or something like that. But I think it was mainly, if Star Wars was on TV, we would watch it. If it comes on, we were going to watch it. I think my dad would occasionally rewatch them, but not a like daily relationship with Star Wars. And now thinking back, I'm like, man, I really wish I would have like picked up those like Star Wars books for kids, like the Galaxy of Fear, or like the Junior Jedi Knights, things like that. I'm like, man, I wish I would have read those then, even though I can still appreciate them now. Sure.
Yeah. And then you were talking about you had like, before you really got into the High Republic, I believe, you had maybe like 4 Star Wars books. Do you remember what like your early collection consisted of and your thoughts about them?
Yes, I had I think I still have it, a like thick mass market paperback of the like original trilogy novelizations. Yeah. I had that. And I like read A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back before I transitioned to listening to the audiobooks because they're like really good. Star Wars audiobooks. Yes.
Okay, good to know.
And I had random paperback copy of Heir to the Empire. I think that was like among the first Star Wars books that I read. And I love telling this story because it's so funny to think about now, seeing that Lost Stars is one of my favorite Star Wars books of all time. It's one of the best Star Wars books ever written. I mean, it's an incredible book.
And that's Claudia Gray, right?
Yes, Claudia Gray. Master Star Wars writer. She's amazing.
Yes.
It was it called like Force Friday or something like that, before The Force Awakens came out. They had like Target, Walmart had those like midnight release parties for like the toys and stuff.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
So kind of.
I remember going to local Target that was having it. Again, I was like a journalist at the time. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to go and like cover it. And I want to go see.
Cover it.
Yeah, cover it. I mean, obviously I was going to buy stuff, but I remember standing in line. It was a huge line, like wrapped around Target. And by the time I got to the point, like the Star Wars section where I could go pick out something to buy, all of the things that I thought I wanted were gone. You know, all the Pop Funkos, even like the shirts, you know, like figurines, all that stuff was gone. The only things that were left were books. So I'm like, well, I want something. I want to buy something. And so I picked up like one of the last copies of Lost Stars. And I was like, okay, well, I don't know what this is about, but like, I'm going to buy something. It's fine. Like, and then I got my little commemorative Force Awakens tote bag and went home. And I wish I could remember when I started actually reading the book, but as I was reading it, I'm like, I am so glad I picked this up because this is incredible. Like, why is nobody else talking about how incredible this book is? Everybody's obviously talking about the toys and the collectibles and stuff like that. But I'm like, this is so good. So I love telling that story, like being like, well, all I got was a book, and it's like one of my favorite Star Wars books ever.
It was faded.
It was faded. And when you picked up that book and you read it, did that spurn you to go and, did I use that word right? Spurn? Did that encourage you to go and read more books, look for more Claudia Gray books, look for more Star Wars books? How did that kind of change your trajectory?
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. And I actually think I listened to the audiobook of it. At the time, I had a little bit of a commute, and I also, you know, had like a later shift at the paper. So I would spend my day like not getting ready, but like spend my day at home doing other stuff. And then as I was getting ready, I'm like, I want to listen to something. I want to like read a book. So I would turn on like a Star Wars audiobook, and Lost Stars was one of them. Not Heir to the Empire, but I listened to the Last Jedi novelization on an audiobook. That got me into like when Phasma came out, I listened to that on audiobook. And I think Lost Stars really was like that like catalyst for me really getting into Star Wars books. And the audiobooks specifically were like so immersive. You know, they have sound effects. Like it wasn't Mark Thompson who narrated Lost Stars, but like Mark Thompson is like the premier like Star Wars audiobook narrator, and he does incredible work with the different voices and things like that. So it is always so thrilling whenever I like turn on a new Star Wars audiobook, because you get that like movie in your ears. You get the like a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, and then the music, and
really
you're like, whoa, this is
I'm so behind the eight ball on this. I'm gonna have to like download Audible again. I'm not normally like an audiobook girly, but this is making me want to jump back in. Like
and that's really like not that I wasn't an audiobook person, but I really do credit the Star Wars audiobooks for really getting me more into audiobooks because of just the production value that goes into Star Wars one specifically. And honestly, like they're just incredible. Like they're so immersive and you feel like you're listening to a movie. Like you're getting like you can picture stuff
like old
really
school
well.
radio like programs.
Yes, the radio dramas. Yeah, it's just like that.
That's really rad. I'm excited too. We're gonna have to listen to a few and do a mini-sode on that, Dave, because I'm now excited.
I feel like my ADHD makes it hard for me to listen to audiobooks. A friend of mine,
but if it's like listening to a movie,
and if it's a movie you've already seen,
right? Yeah,
like obviously I had already seen all of the Star Wars movies, so it was like really easy for me to like listen to the Phantom Menace because I already knew what was happening. I could picture it already.
Yes.
But even with like the novelizations of the audiobooks of the novelizations, like you're getting like a little bit more story like sprinkled in. Yep. So you're getting like it feels like bonus content.
and you also have the even if it's a new novel, you might know the characters and like Dark Disciple is like Ventress, I forget the her lover in it.
Quinlan
Voss. You know these characters, so when they're talking about them, it's easy to kind of follow along. I have a friend who reads along as he's listening to it, and I'm like, I think I would have to do it. Just anchors me into paying attention.
Yeah. I wanted to, because we're talking so much about how much these books have been so impactful for you and obviously became such an important like piece in your life. And I'm curious because you are also very much into space travel. You're literally going to write the book on space and space sites in the South. It feels like Star Trek might have been like, because they do a lot more kind of, I don't know, I feel like it's a bit more like space travel oriented. I'm not a Star Trek person, but yeah, Dave, you maybe.
Oh, well, it's Star Trek tends to be like the more hard sci-fi, like people who are interested in NASA tends towards Star Trek. But I find it interesting that you're interested in, or should I say fascinated in space, but I feel like you have more of a Star Wars passion.
Yeah. Same. So like, what is it about the Star Wars that's so significant? And we might be getting ahead of our ending question here, but as it relates to your love of space.
I would say, I don't even know the reason why. When I look at the like genres of books, like obviously I love to read beyond Star Wars books and looking back at my favorite genres, they have always been at least somewhat in the fantasy genre. There's subgenres and things like that of fantasy. And Star Wars for me has always been able to like touch on like multiple genres, even at the same time. I don't consider Star Wars to be just sci-fi or just fantasy. It doesn't seem to fit in either one. It is, it's space opera. And there's books, there's movies, there's TV shows that lean really into kind of sci-fi, even like political thriller type with like Andor, and then you have more like fantasy, like even like the Acolyte. I would consider that more like fantasy because you have this magic, which is the Force, and like witches, mystery, and things like that. I think that's what really draws me to Star Wars is that it hits the things that I love about fantasy and sci-fi. And I've been trying to get more into the strictly like harder sci-fi and like high fantasy because I really do love those elements. And I'm reading both like hard sci-fi and high fantasy books, and I see Star Wars in both of them, which is so cool.
That is cool.
I'm trying to make my way through the Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson. So I recently read and finished The Way of Kings, and I was reading about they have the Knights Radiant in the Stormlight Archive, The Way of Kings, and they're describing like their morals and like their goals, and I'm like, this is the Jedi. Like this is a Jedi, but with actual swords.
Sure.
And in a fantasy world and not in space with lightsabers.
Yeah.
So, and I read something like Pierce Brown's Red Rising series, and I'm like, oh, that's definitely political hard sci-fi, more like futuristic dystopian type sci-fi. And I'm like, oh, that's Star Wars. Like that's for sure Star Wars. So I love that I can find a little Star Wars in everything.
Oh, what a great answer. Yeah.
It really is.
Well, and also just how applicable the greater Star Wars universe and story is to like the different facets of ourselves, like the things that we enjoy as entertainment, or the things that we want to reflect on in our own lives, or the things that we want to see reflected about the world that kind of like will hopefully make people think, and that like it encompasses all of that in a way that I think you're dead on. So many other franchises don't, or haven't successfully, even if they've maybe tried.
Yeah, I mean, Star Wars has always like reflected, so many different facets of like our culture and like our world and things like that. And like any sort of genre or franchise or fandom that does that, obviously like I love history and anything that like touches that and like, kind of educates about our own real history in a fantasy world or in like kind of like a sci-fi spacey realm, like I'm here for. And that those stories like will resonate more with people.
Yeah. Now, what kind of motivated you to start Space Wizards Book Club?
Ooh, yeah.
It was actually my husband's suggestion to start a newsletter. I have been a freelance entertainment writer since 2020, end of 2020, when I left local news. And I was finding that not everything that I wanted to like write about, everything I wanted to say would fit at different outlets and things like that. I felt like I had more that I wanted to say. And I was, sharing my love for Star Wars books, specifically on social media, on Instagram. And my first skill is like writing. I'm not as comfortable in front of like a camera. I'm not great with like audio or video editing. That's why I've always been a guest on podcasts and not running my own. And I'm like, what's stopping me from having like a newsletter? And kind of, I have this community of followers that come to me and like love my content that I make already. Like, I will write reading guides and I will do Star Wars book reviews here. And I will like post like breaking Star Wars book news. And like it took off. And I was like, oh, the people like it. Cool.
Yes. Well, it is a great newsletter. It is a great newsletter, and I do highly recommend it.
Yeah.
I've got two just kind of random questions for you. For a lot of people, their spouses may or may not be into Star Wars. Is your husband into Star Wars?
Yes, but not as much as me.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
We are a house not divided. But he is more Marvel and I am Star Wars.
Oh, I thought you said as much as me. Sorry.
No. Yeah, he likes Star Wars, but not as much as me.
I got you.
Yeah,
I misheard
yeah.
you. Okay.
And about how many books do you go through in a month?
Oh gosh. Well, if I look at my Goodreads, are we talking specifically Star Wars books or just books in general?
No, just in books in general.
Okay. I think I'm averaging like maybe 8 to 10 books.
Wow.
A month.
Wow.
Wow.
Something like that, depending.
That's amazing.
I do feel like
amazing.
This month was a little difficult because I had finished reading like The Way of Kings, which is like over 1,000 pages. So it depends on the
size
length
of the book.
The book. Yeah, the size of the book. But I feel like it's now picking up because I'm like, oh man, I have a Star Wars book that I need to like finish reading and then write a review by Tuesday.
Oh,
and then I have this other project that I'm working on that's like Star Wars book related. So now I need to like make sure that I like read these 3 over here in time. And so it could pick up quite a bit in the next month.
Wow. Well, plus you're writing your own book.
Because I'm newer to the novelization of Star Wars. In fact, Dave and I, like a sneak peek to the listeners, Dave and I have been chatting about like how we want to kind of evolve our like mini episodes as well. And we're thinking about doing like a book corner and like doing like reviews once a month or something of books that we're reading. And so one of our favorite questions to ask those who have like really dove into the Star Wars novelization is like, how would you recommend someone new jump in? Like, where would you start if you were just starting out now? Or with everything you know? That was a bad way of asking that question. That was like so backwards. Okay, how would you recommend I start right now?
That's a great question. I love getting that question no matter how many times I get it. I love recommending people who like want to get into Star Wars books. We talked a little bit about the audiobooks, and I think it's a great place to start for a lot of people is the novelizations, whether that's the audiobooks or just reading the novelizations. Because more likely they've already watched the movie. So if they're like, I don't really know who that Star Wars character is, I don't really understand like the setting of that Star Wars book because it's not a movie or a TV show, or it has unfamiliar characters. Starting with the novelizations is a great place to begin a Star Wars reading journey. And being a prequel kid, I highly recommend the prequel books, the novelizations, especially Revenge of the Sith. That is like the greatest Star Wars movie novelization.
I did read that one. You can see all my
my gosh. That's so great. It is incredible. Like I can't believe like how hard the author went. Like this is a novelization. This is actually it's more than a novelization. It is. It feels like it stands on its own and adds like so much emotional depth.
So much to Anakin, like
so much
in a way that like you always, as a prequel kid, like I always felt torn on my feelings about, kind of Anakin's journey to the dark side. Like I was such a fan of his as a character as a kid. As I get older, you watch the rest of the series, you're like, oh God, Darth Vader's just this like morally reprehensible like human being or half machine. This gave me it gave me back my like understanding and like love for Anakin when I read this book.
I'm right there with you. And honestly, the books have given me so much more love for characters that I either didn't really like or like I was just like, they're fine. Like, and even with Anakin, like I would say like I was a young girl and I had a crush on him. Because he was cute.
I was circling around that.
Of course, it's pretty much a given. But even like watching Revenge of the Sith, like for the first time, I'm like, wait a minute, like even though like like in your head, like this is what these movies are about. Reading Revenge of the Sith it feels so essential to fully understanding Anakin's character, like just Anakin Skywalker overall. Also reading Star Wars Brotherhood by Mike Chen. That is such a great book about the like evolution of Anakin and Obi-Wan's like relationship from master and apprentice to like brothers. And then like once you read that and then you watch Revenge of the Sith, you're like, oh my gosh, like they were brothers, they loved each other so much. And then of course you watch the Kenobi show and you're like, like, like that just like it tore me up, like that moment in the Kenobi show of just like tears, Obi-Wan's face and also mine.
No, I love that recommendation.
Yeah.
I was such a fan of the Kenobi show, and we've even had some guests on our show that weren't, and that's okay. That was from their point of view. But like, I do feel like it got a little bit too much hate I think it was pretty wonderful.
I can understand why people don't like it.
Sure.
I try to understand why if people don't like a certain show or a book or whatever, I at least try to understand. I'm like, okay, well, I can see why maybe you don't like it. I like that, but like,
I could see why
fine.
that wasn't for you.
I can understand that. I consider the Kenobi show the like best kind of fan service. I feel like people think of fan service as just kind of like icky or just like cringy or whatever. And I can see where it may got a little too like cutesy or cringy or whatever, or like they're trying too hard. But I mean, that was just like the whole journey and the arc. Like it added so much to just Kenobi's character of like, this is like how he got to be here and like the emotional devastation that we didn't get to see afterwards after Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
So.
No, he just ends up being kind of this hermit in the desert, and you know, you can have a contextual understanding as to why, but like you're right, it there was so much more depth brought in through that series.
Yeah.
And there was a certain closure for his understanding of who Anakin had become, which was kind of nice to see. What I liked about Obi-Wan, and I have friends who will disagree with me, but what I liked about it was it felt like a story that deserved to be told, as opposed to a story that just wants to be, or a story that is just fun to tell. This felt like a story that fit within the time, within the time zone, within the era of Obi-Wan's life, that was compelling and interesting and necessary.
Yeah.
So. I feel like it did a good job of, and I don't even know if it like set out to do this, but I think there has been, and I'm sure other fans are like this too, there's a disconnect between Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader, and like that's purposeful, but sometimes it's hard to reconcile that like it is the same person physically, but like not the same person, because we don't have Sith in our universe. So we don't have Jedi, we don't have the Force. Well, I mean, I would argue we have some type of the Force, but it's hard to reconcile that, like, you know, I think I can't remember which movie it was, but I think, you know, Darth Vader at some point says like Anakin Skywalker is dead, you know, like, and then in the Kenobi show, he says like, you didn't kill Anakin, I did. And it's like literally like, okay, no, this is not just Anakin is like going through something and he'll come back, you know, like he's literally like a different person. He has been almost taken over by Darth Vader, this persona, this like personality. And I think that really helped like fans, viewers, and also Obi-Wan like in the show.
Yes. Yeah. And it's actually like just almost not a throwaway line, but in Return of the Jedi, when he said, oh no, I guess it was A New Hope, where Obi-Wan says, Darth Vader betrayed and murdered your father. And that's
like, he was not wrong.
No. He was not wrong. That's really great. That's really fascinating. I love that. And I love when Star Wars kind of like explains little, not little details, but almost throwaway lines like that, where I mean, I just think Star Wars is rife with that. Sorry, I'm going into my own kind of. No,
I understand. Here, I could just wax poetic all day about like the changes and like the Jedi and like the Sith, and like I'm endlessly fascinated by like this idea of like falling to the dark side and becoming a Sith. You know, what is a Sith Lord? Like what is like. I wouldn't consider Asajj Ventress to be a Sith. You know, like she you know, worked in the dark side, but like she wasn't ever a Sith. And like what, you know, what is the spectrum of like being,
where's that line in the same?
Yeah. And you could even argue that for like the Jedi as well. Like, think, well, it's not black and white. It's not like you are a Force user and you're a Jedi. You know, you have Ahsoka Tano. Like,
I was gonna say she's the perfect example.
Yeah. Like she's not a Jedi anymore, and she doesn't identify as a Jedi, but you know, they call her that because they're like, well, everybody that I have seen use the Force and wield a lightsaber is a Jedi. And it's like, that's, you know, not exactly true.
Well, and I also, not to like get too deep, but one of my favorite like teasers into like the future of the Star Wars sagas is at the end of the prequel trilogy when, you know, the kid moves the broom with his with the force, but like, yeah. And I think that's like kind of touching on where you're getting at is like, there's going to be this spectrum of force usage in the galaxy. And like, what is that going to look like? That I'm really excited for. But we can get back to talking about you. I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to say, all of this conversation is like all of this like passion that I have for like talking about these things is really because of the books, because we get so much of those like questions answered, and so much of that like kind of deeper look into like personas and perspectives and different characters than we usually get in either TV shows or movies.
Finn deserves his own storyline in a book, if not anything else. Yeah.
They all do.
He got a little gypped, in my opinion. But anyway.
Great. One of the things you mentioned was you were talking about the force in real life, and it's like, well, I believe we all kind of have it. How do you mean by that? What does that look like to you? The force in real life. Yeah.
Oh, that is a deep philosophical question.
Yeah,
I haven't
loves those.
I haven't really thought too much about it, but I like how do I even explain that? Like, to me, like, Star Wars isn't real, but it is real. I mean, like, the world of Star Wars, Jedi, those things, they aren't real. That galaxy far, far away is not in our universe. But it is, like, Star Wars is real for us, and it does have a way of impacting our own world. The stories that it tells, even though all fictional, like all of this is fictional, like inevitably, like fiction, art, things like that, popular culture, entertainment, it is real because it is, in even the smallest ways, it is reflecting our own world, events, thoughts and feelings, like issues, things like that. I mean, obviously the original Star Wars inspired by is it the Vietnam War? I believe, and I'm like, I can't believe I just like blanked on that. I should know that.
Oh no.
No, it's.
But we forget names and stuff on here all the time. Don't
Like, what was that one Jedi thing called? So I think of it like that. It's like both real and not real, depending on your definition of real. It is going to like reflect our own world, even in like a small way.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. And it's very true that it is. I mean, the human element is the opera in it, right? In space opera. Thinking about it in that way, then, what are 3 elements that make Star Wars to you?
Love, for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
Hope and light.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Those kind of like 3 words.
Yeah.
Kind of sum up Star Wars. Definitely love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of the greatest love stories ever told.
Yeah.
And in so many facets of the word. Yeah.
When I was thinking about, coming on and talking to you guys today, I knew that you were going to ask, like, what does Star Wars mean to you?
It's coming.
And I'm like, I'm just like, what does it mean to me? I mean, it means so many things. And whenever I think of like, what is like the core of like Star Wars, and I'm like, it all has to do with love in some form, whether that is romantic love or platonic love, or
familial love, or
for family and friends, and just love for like life and like the rest of the galaxy, love, empathy for other people, and wanting peace and just, prosperity and things like that. It all boils down to like a love of something. Even when you look at like the worst of the worst villains, I don't necessarily think like Emperor Palpatine loved anyone in particular in that way that we think about it.
But the absence of is what creates.
It's like the either absence of love, too much love, and then almost like the absence of love turned into just like this like desire and passion for power.
Sure.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
Or a love of power. That's completely.
Perhaps the absence of love is a desire for power. I don't know. I feel like there's something there, but But you really just answered our last question. What does Star Wars mean to you? I don't know if we'll get anything
more wonderful and profound as that. Yeah,
I can keep talking about it.
Oh no, I mean, go for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so great.
No, I mean, it really, that's what I just think about. And I'm like, we wouldn't have Star Wars without love. You know, we wouldn't have, obviously, like, even back to just, like, you know, Shmi Skywalker's love for her son.
Oh, yeah.
That, you know, however you want to believe he came into this world, you know, she loved him. And he loved her just as fiercely, if not more so. And then his love for Padme, and then not really knowing how to like navigate that love, and you know, that, you know, ignorance of love, not even like a lack of it. I don't think Anakin ever lacked for love at all. There was never an absence of it, except when he, you know, became Darth Vader. And I think that was like the core of why Darth Vader was also just so angry, and he was just so sad all the time. Like, this is a broken man, even though like he was insanely powerful. And you know, Palpatine really like took advantage of that.
Absolutely.
And I think Palpatine definitely took advantage of Anakin's love in his life and his like propensity for love. Like, I mean, Anakin like loved, like he didn't, it wasn't like a casual thing. He was hardcore.
He was all out.
Yeah, it was all or nothing for him. And I think that's also reflected in his like fall to the dark side. It's all or nothing.
Yes.
He's not just going to like dabble in it just to save Padme and be like, all right, I'm good. You know, like that was
no, he was both feet in. Yeah.
Both feet in. It really
both feet.
Chelsea, thank you so much for joining us tonight and telling us what Star Wars means to you. I loved this conversation.
I did too.
Thanks for having me. This was great. It was so fun.
Oh, I'm so glad. Where can people find you?
People can find me a couple of different places. So you can find me on my Space Wizards Book Club newsletter. That is also the name of my Instagram page. And I have an Etsy shop of like fun Star Wars bookish merch. So you can look there.
I did not know that until right now.
Oh, you'll like it. You'll like it.
So newsletter, Instagram. I am on TikTok, not under Space Wizard Book Club. I'm under Chelsea Z Reads there, but I talk about Star Wars books all the time on there, as well as other genres, sci-fi and fantasy. And then, that's where you can find me.
Yay!
All those links will be in the podcast notes. So if someone wants to just kind of pop down in there, they can click right over to you. Again, thank you so much. This is like, I felt like this hour went too fast.
I know. I actually I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it's already been an hour.
I meant to plug Star Wars Insider because I also write for them.
Yeah.
Yes.
So wherever you want to fit that in, I am occasionally in the pages of Star Wars Insider. I've done a few articles last year, and I'm working on my next one right now. So I will have more.
Oh,
I'll be sharing more details about that soon.
Okay.
It has to do
no sneak peek, no exclusive,
super secret, but it does have to do with Star Wars video games.
Oh, fun!
Okay,
so.
Yes. Fantastic. Well, can't wait to read that. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, we really do.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was, so fun, and happy to come on anytime if you end up doing those little book mini
we should.
Yes.
Would love that.
We should totally have you back when we start kicking those off, because I've really enjoyed your perspective a lot. Yeah, this has been a joy. May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you too.
Hi, this is Dave, and before we get to the show, I wanted to ask you a favor. One of our goals this year is to grow the show so that What Does Star Wars Mean to You reaches more listeners. And that's where we're asking you for help. And it's really easy. Wherever you listen to us, please hit that subscribe button. If you're liking the show, give us a 5-star rating and review on the platform you listen to us. We make a lot of fun of the algorithm and the smash that button thing, but it really does help us get noticed by new fans. And if you want to join in on the conversation, find us on social at Star Wars Mean to You. That's Star Wars Mean, the number 2 in the letter U. Now, let's chat some Star Wars.